Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia will continue to support Syria and Iraq to confront terrorism. Iraqi army supported by tribal fighters continue to advance in al-Anbar province, killing and wounding scores of terrorists. Al Gregorius Church in al-Nabek in Damascus countryside is reopened after repairing the damages caused by the armed terrorist groups. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Arab Television in Damascus. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Russia will continue to support and provide support and assistance to Syria and Iraq and other countries in the region in their efforts to confront terrorism. He pointed out that the major threat in Syria and neighboring countries is that the acts of ISIL and other extremist organizations which some Western countries have placed bets on and emboldened. Efforts to fight this terror threat, the Russian president stressed, should be based on the International Security Council's resolutions and strictly compliant with the international law, particularly the principles of sovereignty and non-interference in the internal affairs of states. Putin also reiterated his country's stance, calling for finding a political solution to the crisis in Syria by the Syrians themselves and through an inter-Syrian national dialogue without preconditions by anyone. President Putin affirmed that Russia will continue doing whatever it takes and is necessary to help the Syrian people overcome the tragic events to which they are exposed and to reach a political solution, pointing out that the contacts Moscow is making with representatives of the Syrian government and the various opposition groups and the regional and international partners, including the Turks, aims at getting to solve the crisis in Syria, asserting the need that all efforts of the forces of the Syrian society against terrorism or terrorist organizations be united so as to maintain Syria's unity, sovereignty and independence. Kazakh President Nizarbayev called for intensifying efforts to combat the recruitment of Kazakh youth and sending them to join the terrorist organizations operating in Syria. The press office at the Kazakh presidency said that President Nizarbayev called on head of the national security to intensify efforts to combat terrorist groups, stressing the necessity of taking measures to confront extremism and international terrorism. Austrian authorities announced the arrest of 13 extremists on charges of recruiting terrorists and sending them to Syria. Terrorism Combating Office said that the security forces launched a wide-scale arrest campaign in the main Austrian cities that resulted in the arrest of extremists belonging to terrorist organizations who were working to recruit youth and send them to Syria to join the terrorist organizations operating there. St. Gregorius Church in al-Nabek, Damascus countryside, is reopened after repairing the damages caused by the armed terrorist groups to it. More about it in the following report.
Patriarch Gregorius III Laham of Antioch and the holiest for the Roman Catholic Church opened it after its renovation by the locals. A mass was held in the church for restoring peace and security to Syria.
The renovation of the church after demolishing it symbolizes our determination to rebuild Syria and confront terrorism.
We hope that security and stability will be restored to the whole country so that people can live peacefully.
We are Muslims coming to share the celebration of reopening the church because Syria has always been a symbol for peaceful coexistence among all religions.
The Syrian people have been renowned for their love of life and peace. We hope that peace will prevail all over the world.
When the city of al-Nabek was liberated from the armed terrorist groups, we decided to rebuild everything and restore life as it was before the coming of terrorists.
We are very pleased in Yabrud, and we hope that the Syrian territories will be liberated from terrorism, thanks to the heroic deeds of the Syrian Arab army.
Patriarch Laham left for the Virgin Church, where a mass was held for restoring security and stability to Syria.
On the occasion of the Independence Day of Armenia, a ceremony was held, attended by a group of ambassadors and heads of diplomatic envoys and missions and delegates from several ministries in that ceremony. After playing the Syrian and Armenian national anthems, the Armenian ambassador made a speech asserting that the Armenian Syrians are an integral part of the Syrian community, and they are eager to show the civilized face of the Syrian community everywhere they go. The ambassador added that the Armenian government supports Syria in its war against terrorism. Symbolic medals were given to the figures that contributed to the reinforcing of the Syrian-Armenian relationship.
The Armenians have had a long history in Syria. It started even before the Armenian massacre. But it was seen to a great extent during that time when the Armenians crossed borders, walking barefooted to arrive to Syria, a land that actually gave them sanctuary and that up till now gives them sanctuary. And I think the Armenians have integrated very well within Syrian society, at the same time keeping their own identity, speaking their own language and practicing their own religious faith. You can see obviously from what's happening today that there are many Syrians present. Medals have been given to commemorate those people, Syrians and Armenians, who have done a lot for Armenia and for Syria indeed. Unfortunately, in the past 2 years we've seen a return to Armenian persecution, again by the Turks in Kasab, where Armenians, many of the Armenian community, they lost their houses, they lost their belongings. They went back to square one, actually. In Aleppo, again, a lot of Armenians suffered through what is happening, suffered from the attacks that were carried out by the terrorists. But in all faith, the Armenians have actually kept their belief in Syria. And I just want to say something which is very important. A lot of Armenians had to leave to go to Armenia. But Bishop Armash Nalbandian told me a very important story. He said that many of those Armenians actually asked the Armenian education system in Armenia that they keep studying the Syrian books because they want to come back to Syria. And when they come back to Syria, they don't want to be left behind.
The Armenian Syrians are celebrating the independence of Armenia here in Syria. And I wish, and all the people here wish, that Syria would be better, and we wish peace and security to Syria. Thank you.
An Iraqi security source said that Iraqi army supported by tribal fighters continue to advance to the east of al-Ramadi city in Anbar governorate. The source added that a number of ISIS terrorists were killed, referring that several explosive charges planted by the terrorist organization were dismantled. Iraqi Air Force also shelled an ISIS gathering in al-Ridwaniyah to the south of Baghdad, killing and wounding scores of them. Meanwhile, 9 Iraqis were killed and 23 others wounded in terrorist attacks that took place in the capital, Baghdad. Turkish police attacked Turkish demonstrators who took to the streets in protest of a visit paid by a Turkish official to the Tunceli governorate to the east of the country. The police used gas bombs and water cannons to disperse hundreds of demonstrators who wanted to express their rejection of the visit. Meanwhile, tension is still prevailing in several Turkish cities in the aftermath of violent acts that resulted in the killing of more than 30 people last October. The protests were staged to denounce the official Turkish stand in support of ISIS terrorists in their war against the Syrian city of Ain al-Arab. The EU has severely criticized the Turkish Justice and Development Party for issuing a decision to ban publishing investigations about corruption. The European Commission spokesperson said that issuing such a decision by the Turkish court, while 4 former ministers were suspected to be involved in these issues, is inexplicable, showing that Turkey is going backwards concerning the media and judiciary reforms. With this, we conclude our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now the latest business and market news with Nariman, but after a short break.